You are welcome to yet another episode of HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show, where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. In the intricate and deeply controversial legal battles surrounding R. Kelly, countless narratives have circulated around, some driven by headlines, others by courtroom testimonies, and many more by those personally involved in the cases. But what remains disturbingly under-discussed is the question of coercion, manipulation and pressure applied to government witnesses, some of whom have quietly expressed regret, sorrow, and even outright admissions of dishonesty in the aftermath of their involvement. One of the most striking examples of this is the case of Jerhonda Pace, a woman whose name became one of the most recognized in the accusations against R. Kelly, and for whom he was charged with forced labor. Pace's testimony was initially touted by prosecutors as a linchpin in their case. But behind the scenes or beneath the legal maneuvers and public statements lies a far more troubling story. One of regret, coercion and the heavy hand of government pressure that turned alleged personal trauma into a courtroom spectacle. In a revealing video that has since circulated among those closely following these cases, Jerhonda Pace opens up about her decision to testify against R. Kelly. A decision she categorized as one of her deepest regrets. Not because of some wavering sense of loyalty or misplaced affection, but because in her own words the things she said were never true after all. It is a chilling admission, one that calls into question the integrity of a case that has seen a man's life and career decimated in the court of public opinion, and under the scrutiny of a legal system often accused of pursuing conviction at any cost. Pace explains that once her initial story was made public, she found herself trapped in a relentless cycle of expectation and demand from federal authorities. It was not, as some might assume, a voluntary and empowered act of speaking out. Rather, it became a protracted ordeal in which she was repeatedly contacted, followed up and pressured to cooperate further regardless of whether her narrative was rooted in truth or not. And this is not conjecture. According to Pace, the feds were unyielding in their demands. She notes that after she allowed to go public with the story, her life was no longer her own. Stress and anxiety took hold, compounded not by public backlash, but by the knowledge that government prosecutors would not leave her alone. She reveals that what began as a single statement turned into an ongoing expectation to testify not once but twice. She says she was slated to becoming a key witness not only in New York but also in the Chicago state case, one that was ultimately dismissed, sparing her a second round of what she now describes as unbearable pressure from the feds.
I thought that once I told my story and filed charges and went through the trial and I testified and he was found guilty, I was like, okay, that's the end of it. I can finally close that chapter and just be done and move on. Like, now it's finally in my past. I can wrong. Because today, Homeland Security showed up at my house and they're like, yeah, you have to testify. And I'm like, no, I don't want to testify. I don't want to go through that again. I testified in New York. I do not want to testify in Chicago. Like, I am done. In all honesty, I said, fuck it. Like, fuck it. I'm not doing it again. Leave me alone. And it was like, okay, well, if you don't, participate and, testify in this trial, then you don't have to. And I was like, okay. I'm sorry, they said if I don't want to, I don't have to. And I say, okay, good. It's like, but, however, you will be subpoenaed. And if you're subpoenaed, you have to show up. And if you don't show up, then you get arrested.
The government, it seems, was unwilling to accept a simple retraction or a request to withdraw. Once she was in their crosshairs, any attempt to step back was met with the implicit and at times explicit threat of legal consequences. For witnesses like Jerhonda, many of whom may have had their own legal vulnerabilities, the stakes were devastatingly clear. Cooperate or risk prosecution yourself. Meanwhile, this method of witness procurement, leveraging potential criminal charges against individuals to extract forced testimony favorable to the government's case, is neither new, nor particularly rare in the realm of high-profile prosecutions. But it is ethically dubious, legally questionable and morally corrosive to the fundamental principles of justice. The devastating emotional toll this took on Jerhonda Pace is evident in her own admissions. In her video statement, she expressed sorrow over her involvement and the subsequent unraveling of her life. It was never meant to reach this point, she insists, but once the machinery of federal prosecution was set in motion, there was no turning back. This admission by Jerhonda casts a long and dark shadow over the trial proceedings against R. Kelly. When a star witness concedes that their testimony was fabricated and moreover, that they were subjected to coercion by the government to maintain their false claims, it undermines the credibility of the entire prosecution. A case built on pressured and regretful testimony is like a house built on sand. And Jerhonda Pace was not alone. Though she is among the few to openly address her experience, whispers and quiet rumors have long surrounded the other key witnesses in these cases. It is a well-documented tactic in prosecutorial circles to identify individuals with vulnerabilities, whether legal, financial or personal, and offer them leniency or protection in exchange for their twisted testimony. The threat is clear: either contribute to the government's narrative or face the full weight of prosecution for your own alleged misdeeds. What makes Pace's story so compelling and so damning is that she has nothing to gain from this admission. If anything, it invites criticism, skepticism and the inevitable scrutiny that comes with retracting a public accusation. And yet she chose to speak out, driven by the burden of a conscience weighed down by falsehood and the irreversible damage wrought upon another people. In light of this, serious questions must be raised about the integrity of the case against R. Kelly. If one key witness admits to have been pressured into testifying by federal authorities, how many others might have experienced the same? And how much of the government's case was constructed not from a pursuit of truth but from a pursuit of conviction? Regardless of the methods required to achieve it, the implications are staggering. It suggests that the verdict rendered against R. Kelly was not merely the result of objective fact-finding or impartial justice, but may have been the product of manipulated narratives, coerced testimonies, and a prosecutorial apparatus willing to use the most vulnerable individuals as tools to achieve its ends. Moreover, Jerhonda's regret highlights the personal devastation wrought by such tactics. Beyond the legal implications, there is a human cost to coercing individuals into false testimony. The anxiety, stress and mental anguish she describes are not abstract consequences, they are real, measurable and profoundly unjust. This scenario becomes even more egregious when one considers the possibility that some of these witnesses were threatened with prosecution not merely as a theoretical risk, but as an active ongoing danger. In the world of federal litigation where broad statutes and expansive prosecutorial discretion reign supreme, it would have been a simple matter for the government to identify potential charges against witnesses like Pace and use them as leverage. In other words, speak against R. Kelly or face charges yourself. It is a dynamic that warps the justice system from a mechanism of truth-seeking into an instrument of control. Witnesses no longer serve as neutral conveyors of fact but as pawns in a larger strategic game, compelled to deliver the testimony that prosecutors demand or risk their own freedom. This is not justice. It is in every sense of the word coercion. And as Jerhonda's video makes clear, the aftermath of such coercion is not a simple matter of moving on. The weight of guilt, the loss of personal integrity and the knowledge of having contributed to what she now believes was a wrongful conviction have left her life in turmoil. The stress and anxiety she describes are the inevitable products of a system that values conviction rates over truth and narrative control over human dignity. For those who have followed R. Kelly's legal issues, this revelation should serve as a wake-up call. The case cannot be viewed solely through the lens of celebrity scandal or courtroom drama. It must also be understood as a cautionary tale about the dangerous intersections of prosecutorial ambition and vulnerable witnesses. When the desire to win eclipses the commitment to justice, the results are inevitably destructive not only for the accused but for the very fabric of the legal system itself. As we examine the broader implications of Pace's statement, one fact becomes increasingly clear. If even a single witness was coerced, pressured or manipulated into delivering false testimony, it casts doubt over the entirety of the government's case. In a system where the burden of proof is meant to rest on the accuser, any indication of foul play or witness tampering must be taken with utmost seriousness. The government's relentless pursuit of Jerhonda even after her initial testimony reveals a prosecutorial culture more concerned with maintaining its narrative than with uncovering the truth. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say? To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.